All right, what's up, people? Once again in the building with the connoisseur of CuzWeKin, your boy Big U. Back to you again with another episode of Open Ball Sports Talk Edition. Now, I have good news for everybody today. Well, it ain't really good news for everybody. It's good news for me. Because as you know, we always come at you with sports from a New York perspective. Big time New York fans over here. And we have a Knicks victory, a Knicks NBA victory sighting. Hark, there goes the win. All right, we're going to get into my assessment. I was going to wait until we won. I didn't want to talk about my team while they were doing bad. I did kind of get into it a little bit after they played the Nets, informing everybody that the Knicks were 0-2, then they were 0-3 with their last game. But we finally have come to a victory. We beat the Chicago Bulls. Not a great team, but at the moment, with no victories, you take what you could get as far as getting that W. My assessment so far of the team is they don't look very good. A lot of people are blaming it on a variety of different things. Most people point to Coach Fizdale, his rotations, plays that he does play sometimes, plays that he doesn't play at sometimes. What I thought was that I give them 10 games because I know early in the beginning of the season he has to kind of get his rotations down and see who he's going to use in what situations. I'm sure he has an idea in his mind about which players will work. So you want to kind of give guys a chance to show you or to kind of play their way out of rotation. In the preseason, I know everybody's saying in the preseason that's where you get your lineups together. I don't actually believe that because in the preseason, everybody is kind of taking it easy. They don't want their star players getting hurt. Teams are not playing with their full force. They're not playing with their full energy. So you're not going to get an idea of who's really good in that preseason. You got to kind of let it play itself out in the beginning of the regular season, and that's what this is. We're only 4 games in. The Bluebirds have already come out against the Knicks during their games, and don't go into panic mode yet because we're just starting. Again, I think that Fizdale is trying out some lineups and trying to figure out what works. I know that a lot of people are mad because they're saying he's not sticking by his philosophy. He said, you eat what you kill, pretty much saying that you earn your time on the floor. If you're playing well, you will play. You will continue to play, and if you're not playing well, you will not get playing time. And he doesn't seem to be following through on that in some situations. So but I'm not one of the people that's going to bash him. I'm not with the Fire Fizdale movement, and I'm not going to unapprove him. You know how CuzWeKin we approve, we unapprove. I'm not going to unapprove him as of yet. I'm giving him 10 games to kind of see what they do, and then after that, I may get into a judgment of his coaching or lack thereof. Some things that I think are bigger issues than people are talking about the coaching is, to me, the play of some of the players that are expected to play well for the team. They're not really holding up their end of the bargain right now. And a couple of players that come to mind when I mention this are Dennis Smith Jr. and Julius Randle. Now, one way more egregious than the other, but I'll get into that and why I think what I think. So, Dennis Smith Jr., there was a lot of talk about him last year. He played pretty well. At the end of the season, he did get injured, didn't finish out the season, but he had a strong showing leading up until then. And then there was a bunch of videos going up of him working on his jump shot and working on his game and doing this and so forth and so on in the summer league and not the summer league, but in the summertime, working to prepare his game for this coming season, and he was going to be a big impact player. And now that the season has come, where is all the backup to all the talk and all of the commotion? I think that he is getting ahead of himself. He's trying to become DSJ 2.0 when there wasn't really a 1.0 yet. He's a fairly new player to the league, and he hasn't even made his mark as the original DSJ to try to become this new. Now I see he's shooting a bunch of fadeaways and step backs and all, doing all these dribble moves and things. When he came into the league, he was a very aggressive, to the basket slashing type of player, and he found nominal success doing that. So I think he needs to get back to his roots, do what he did, and maybe that would benefit his game and therefore benefit the team. Recently he did experience tragedy in his family. His stepmother passed away, and he will be away from the team for a little while, so that may give him a time to kind of gather his thoughts and get himself together so that he can come back and be the old, aggressive DSJ that we need him to be. Prayers with him and his family at this time, and I hope that everything's well. On the other side of that, Julius Randle. Same thing. I think that sometimes these players, they say all the right things and they have all the best intentions, but then when it's time to execute the plans, something is missing in the execution. So he's another player that in his interviews, he was saying how he was ecstatic to be a Knick and ecstatic to be a part of the team that could possibly bring greatness back to New York. Playing in the historic, the Mecca. Everybody says that. Everybody talks about the Mecca, the Garden, and all those types of things. So then they also showed him in the summertime working on his jump shot, all these dribble moves and things of that nature to stretch his game that could possibly help the team in the upcoming season. And he was looking great, in the preseason and things of that nature. And when I saw him in the preseason, it looked like he was playing like at half speed. And same thing with DSJ. They both looked like they were playing at half speed, maybe like they were still in training mode or something like that, where just come out and be the player that you were. The player that you were got you this far, and building on that player will get you farther, not trying to change up kind of who you are. He's shooting three-pointers, which is great because he could stretch the defense shooting three-pointers. And that's what the NBA now is all about. It's about D and threes and, dunking and shooting three-pointers. The mid-range game is kind of out of favor. The post game is out of favor. But I still believe as an aggressive big guy, he's strong, and his motor, that most guys do not want to defend a player like that in this NBA, and he could be very, very successful just being what he was when he was on the Pelicans. So to Julius Randle, I would say just trust and believe in your game. The type of player that you are, he always reminded me of a Larry Johnson type player. A strong to the basket. He had enough handle to get to the basket, and then with his frame, it'd be hard for anybody if he caught the ball anywhere near the post or if he made a move and got to the basket. But now I see a bunch of hesitation and him trying to finesse when he's not a finesse player. It ends up turnovers, and it doesn't look great. So, Julius, just be you, man. Do your thing, and I think you'll be fine. One of the things that I thought would be kind of something that the Knicks needed to stake their hat on, that they didn't seem to figure out in the first couple of games of the season, the first few games that they seemed to figure out in this last game, is that their defense is going to be a staple of the team. Because the makeup of our team, we are not talented enough, and this is not a knock to any of the players on the team because I love our Knicks roster. But compared to other teams that are full of superstars, this season you got, it used to be the super teams, it used to be this or that. Now you have the 1-2 punches, the dynamic duos, and we don't really have one of those. We don't have two marquee players on our team that the team could kind of rest their laurels on, that when push come to shove, they're going to get us out of situations and trouble and win games for us. So what they got to do is they got to play team ball, and they got to, as a crew, move, and effort has to be there every night. They have to fight for every play. They got to die for every loose ball, and they got to defend the basket on that end of the court because, there's nobody to save them. So the Knicks got to come out and put that effort forth every single night for them to be effective. And I think in that victory that they just got against the Bulls, that's something that they did come out and do, because they were down 16 points at one point, and then they turned that defense up and turned the game around. This leads me to one of the more controversial players on the team. Speaking of defense, you cannot speak of the defense without speaking of Frank Ntilikina, or Frank Money as they call him. He was a player that was fighting for a time at the point guard position with Dennis Smith Jr. that I mentioned before, and with Elfrid Payton. Both of those guys were probably more favored by the coaching staff than Frank Ntilikina because he's been here for a few years and he couldn't seem to find a comfortable spot for his game on the team's roster. But in this last game, he came out and he was just Frank. And it's crazy because he didn't even have a field goal in the game, but I believe he had probably, just up there with anybody else on the team, one of the most effective games on the team that night for the Knicks. Because when he came in the game, he changed the complexion of our team on the defensive end. He made it hard for the Bulls to get their offense going, and then when he did that, that allowed us to erase that 16-point deficit, get back in the game. His energy His defensive intensity was infectious, and it changed the whole complexity of the game for the team itself. It turned around the energy. It picked up their energy. Everybody was getting back on defense. Everybody was defending their man, help defense, to a point where even when he was taken out of the game, the energy that he created stayed in the game even in his absence. And that's why Fizz has to get that guy in the rotation. I don't know if maybe he doesn't play him as much, because I know a lot of coaches, when they come into a new situation and they take over a roster, they like to give their guys that they either traded for or drafted, made deals for, the most chance to play. And Ntilikina was a player that was there prior to Fizdale's arrival, but I think he needs to realize the value that Frank Money brings to the team and let that guy play, man, because what he does, I don't think anybody else brings to the floor what he brings to the floor on that Knicks roster. We do have some other solid players on the Knicks right now that are doing well. Another young player that's doing well is Kevin Knox. It seems that he has got the NBA offense down, and he knows where he's effective from. He knows where he can score from, and he's not afraid to, put up shots in his comfort areas. He's shooting great from the three-point line right now. He's 9 for 16 on the season, which is over 50%, which is, that's way above the NBA average. I don't know how long it'll stay that high, but even if it does go down some and creep into the 40s, 40% three-point shooting is premium in the NBA right now. So if he could keep it up there, it'd be great. His game is looking very smooth going to the basket. And like I said, it seems like he's found his sweet spots on the floor where he can be effective from. The only thing that I would ask from him is that he works on ramping up his intensity on the defensive end, because with his frame, very long, very athletic, quick, wiry, he could be a very good defender. But I spoke about this in an older video. Defense is 50% your desire to play defense. So if he decides that he just wants to be a great offensive player and that's it, that's probably what he will be. But if he makes a decision to, put that effort in on both ends of the floor, that's what brings players up to that next level. Not just being, a one-sided player, but playing both sides of the ball. Mitchell Robinson is another great young Knicks player that's doing well right now. As far as shot blocking goes, you're not going to find a much better player than Mitch in the NBA at all. The only thing is that he has to keep himself on the floor, because he finds himself getting in foul trouble with a lot of bad fouls and sometimes in crucial situations in the game. If he could keep himself out of foul trouble and keep himself on the floor, he's definitely a body that would do well for the Knicks with his shot blocking, because rim protection is an area that on most teams in the NBA, because of the style of ball that's being played right now, a lot of teams do not have a rim protector. So having that as the anchor to your defense and having that as a little insurance plan on your defense is something that would definitely benefit the Knicks moving on into the season. Then you got twin, Marcus Morris. Started off like a house on fire, and right now he's kind of smoldering charcoals. Had 26 points in the first game, shot about 60% from the field, and then since then he has been on a steady decline. I think he's shooting about 30% from the field in the last few games. I think he's also pressing a bit too, because of the lofty expectations of leadership placed on him. Like the other players that I mentioned in Randall, Dennis Smith Jr., these players have been in the league for a few years. He's probably the longest tenured player in the NBA, I think, on the team, if I'm not mistaken. And with that responsibility comes a lot of pressure to lead the team. And I think that in trying to be a leader, he's forcing his game a little bit in some circumstances, and that's leading into him struggling a bit. But I think he'll be fine. Just, again, trust yourself. He's a good player. He has a good complement of skills. His skill set is definitely of this NBA. He's a stretch 3-4 player. He can shoot the three. He can handle the ball, get to the basket, and he's tough on both sides of the floor. So, Marcus, just be yourself, man, and I think you'll be okay. Then you get into the other point guard, Elfrid Payton, and he's solid. He's been in the league for a few years, and definitely solid on the offensive and defensive end. Does not have a lot of offensive skill, maybe similar to Frank Ntilikina. Not as bad, though. He's been shooting better than Frank Ntilikina, but that's not very hard, because I haven't seen Frank make many baskets at all in the season. But his value also is on defense and then facilitating the offense. That's one place that him and Frank Money differ, is that Frank can facilitate offense, but Peyton does a little better there. But on the defensive end, they both play decent defense, and I think Frank Ntilikina does a little better there. Then you end up with Wayne Ellington, another. I think he may be. Well, if you guys look and see, has Wayne Ellington or Marcus Morris been in the NBA longer? I'm not sure off the top of my head, but look, check it out and let me know in the comments below. But Wayne Ellington rounds out the veteran core of the Knicks, or the best that the Knicks have, and he's been pretty solid doing what he does, and that's knock down shots. Throughout the first 4 games, when he's in the game, when he's had a chance to play, he has been consistent in knocking down the 3 ball. I've even seen him make some forays to the basket, and he's looking pretty good. So he's solid, and he's doing what they expect him to do. So if he continues to do that, it's all about the Knicks being able to trust what they're going to get from each player on any given night, and it should be consistency. And he's definitely one of the players on the team that has been consistent. All right, I saved the best 2 participants in that last game, and overall one of them for last, and that was in that last game, Bobby Portis, who has been pretty solid from the beginning of the season. Hasn't been shooting the 3 ball very well. I think he might have even been 0 for 7 coming into this past game where they beat the Bulls. But his effort, his energy, his motor has always been consistent. It's always been there. And in playing against the Bulls, I think this is a revenge game, and you always get an impressive performance from the players who used to be on these teams when they play these revenge games. So Bobby Portis was traded to the Knicks from the Bulls, and he came out with a chip on his shoulder from the beginning of the game, and he kept that chip there into the end of the game. Scored 28 points, 11 rebounds, was 4 for 4 from the 3-point line, knocked down shots in the clutch when they needed him to, and had an overall stellar performance. Congratulations, do your thing, Bobby. Keep that up, and I would just say, even if you gotta pretend that you're playing against the Bulls every night to get yourself up for the games, and that's what you need to do, because that effort and intensity is what the Knicks are going to need from him moving forward for us to be successful. Last but not least is my rook, the Maple Mamba, R.J. Barrett, number 3 pick of the New York Knicks. I don't have anything bad to say about this guy. Since the beginning of the year, since the beginning of us seeing the Knicks period, summer league into the preseason into now, to me, he has been the most consistent Knick on the team. Be it with his effort, his tenacity, showing up to every game, playing every play on the offensive and defensive end, and contributing in every area and aspect of the game. Filling up the stat sheet, rebounds, steals, assists, points, whatever it is that the Knicks need at whatever given time, clutch baskets, RJ was there to give it to him. And from a rookie, this is outstanding play. Even from a veteran player, it would be, but from a rookie, it's even more outstanding. I want to say again, big up to you, RJ Barrett, man. Keep it up. Do your thing. And I think that if you continue doing what you're doing, you may have a say in that Rookie of the Year race, which was something that I was saying from the beginning of the season when I first saw you in Summer League, after they drafted you, that with your skill set, with your demeanor, what I saw from him, I thought that he'd have some say in this Rookie of the Year race, and it seems like he's going to be one of the front runners. So, the Knicks have gotten a victory, gotten a taste of victory. Hopefully that taste will leave them hungry, wanting more, and they will go out and amass some more victories. But, we'll see. One of my guys missing in action is Ignas Brazdeikis, a.k.a. Iggy. He did great when he was on the floor in the Summer League, did not touch the floor in the preseason for whatever reason much, and then in the regular season hasn't touched the floor at all. And I think that's kind of strange because we just got blown out by Boston, and at least in that game, I would have gave the rookie a chance to touch the floor out in the Garden, get your feet wet and give him a chance to, what Fizdale is saying, to eat what you kill. If you don't give him a chance to kill nothing, how's he going to eat? So I don't understand why he's been absent for the whole season. I don't know if he can't figure out my way into the lineup, but I'd say again, in that Boston blowout, that was the perfect time to put him in there and let him get his feet wet. He looked like he was a professional. Every time they gave him a chance to do, he's done. He's been ready, so hopefully he's just staying ready, and when he gets his chance, he'll come out and do his thing. The next game that the Knicks have is against the Orlando Magic. Another team in that, the probably the bottom rung of teams in the NBA where people are saying that the Knicks are, where I'm not saying people are saying, I'm saying too right now until they prove different where the Knicks are. But that's another team that does not have a 1-2 punch, that doesn't have really superstar-laden roster. So it's a game that the Knicks could, again, if they come out and put forth great effort, intensity, play defense, and just be who they are. I don't need Julius Randle to be Kevin Durant or James Harden. Just be Julius Randle. Come out and be aggressive. I don't need Dennis Smith Jr. if he's back. I don't think he will be back because, again, I said he's away on, he has family situation that he's handling. But if he does get back, just be DSJ, man. Go to the basket, get your game going from there, and then move out from there. But I think this is a winnable game, and I'm looking forward to seeing my boys compete. Go New York, go New York, go. It's the Knicks tape, man. And this is what we're going to do. As always, we end where it all began. And that's with Carmelo Anthony. I don't know if you guys can see. I got my Melo jersey on. Classic. One of the greatest Knicks ever. Aside the Hoya Destroyer. Patrick Ewing, Walt Clyde Frazier, and all them boys. But Melo is still out there and not on an NBA roster. Something needs to be done about that. I would hope that the Knicks could find some space on their roster for him again. It only makes sense. It only be right. Put him back in New York where he was born and where he belongs. That'll add another veteran presence into the locker room, onto that roster to teach these young boys the ropes, to get them going right. They seem to be going in the right direction, but Melo could steer the ship in the right direction. So, if Melo's out there somewhere, somebody holler, make him offer that he can't refuse and get him on that Knick roster. But to that note, thank you guys for hanging out with me for a while. It's been another episode of the Open Bar Sports Talk. And as you know, when you see us out and about, anywhere we go, conversation, drinks, all that on the house. See you when we see you. Peace. Yeah.